Hello and welcome everybody to this Q&A live stream of Dangerous Connections. It's nice for you to join. Hello, Kevin. Nice to have you here. And let me just check everything. I mean, it's been a really long time. Hello, Retro Collection. It's been a really long time since I last did this. Everybody to this Q&A. I did some setting up this afternoon of OBS, just so you have to have the logo down here and the information down here. But I think everything seems pretty fine. Seems to be audio coming through. Also, the webcam seems to be working. Everything seems to be fine. Hello, Alex. Oh, so many familiar names. That's great. People that you will recognize later on when the game is released. That is very cool. So in today's live stream, I think we're going to do about an hour, maybe half an hour. We'll see what the questions are and yeah, just generally how the interaction goes. I mean, back in the day, usually I was doing something. I remember I was either doing some design stuff, or I did some cleaning up and did some preparation or anything. I was working on the side and just occasionally watching the live stream and answering the questions. But this time around, I thought to focus on your questions and stuff. I also have some things to show, which we will look in this live stream. Let's start with where we stand at the moment. We had sort of planned to release the demo. So demo means a playable version of the first level, basically, because also in the teaser and trailer and everywhere that you probably or hopefully have seen so far, all you could see was level 1, the dark level taking place in some snowy landscape. Up until now, I have made 6 levels. The last one, the 6th one, has just been completed last night, basically. It took me about 1.5 weeks. I had 1 week of holiday and spent 12 to 15 hours every day working on a map. But I think it turned out really cool. I'm going to show you a little bit of it later in the stream. Yeah, so that's basically where we are at the moment. And we sort of wanted to get the demo done in August or September. But the thing is, with game development, I'm trying to stick to the roadmap as good as I can. There are a couple of problems because sometimes it's development from a technical point of view gives you a bit of a headache. I mean, we had 2 major problems that cost us about 3 to 4 weeks each. One was, my collaborator who's called Arsalan. He's a great guy, and he does all of the technical stuff, so to speak. So he ties everything together, and he does the programming and so on, because I'm really too slow and not well versed enough in that field. So I have to have someone on my side. But since this project is also self-financed, I can't let him have work on a rate I would love to. I mean, I would love him to spend like 8 to 10 hours a day, like a normal job. But the problem is that since I have to finance it myself up until now, there are certain restrictions. I mean, there's about $1,000 or $1,500 a month I can spare for this game, which is great already. I mean, there are a lot of people who could not afford that, but unfortunately I can because I have 2 jobs and they're quite good jobs. But we always hit the threshold where I have to tell them, like in 2 weeks in the month, I have to tell them, you got to stop because we've reached the budget that I can spend this month. So it slows everything down. And like I said before, one technical problem that we had is we work in Unity HDRP, and we suddenly, or Arsalan had encountered problems with FPS rates drop, which of course, when you're trying to do some things and test it as well, and you have like a really slow and low FPS rate, it's hardly possible at all to figure things out. And so we had to resolve that. Apparently, reading up on it in some forums, it turned out that this is a problem that sometimes occurs, that all of a sudden you have, during development, you have this FPS drop quite considerably. And and then you try to resolve it. Sometimes it goes away by just the way it came, just out of nowhere seemingly. And the second problem was with a couple of general interaction animations, so animations that concern the player figure, the player Like when you fly away from an explosion or when you insert something, we had a couple of technical issues with that, and it just introduces problems and introduces just a massive delay. So I think the demo is going to be delayed 1 or 2 months. So we're more looking at, well, September is still optimistic because we're all almost, mid-August, so it'll more be October when we have the demo of the first level done. And adding to that is the fact that at the moment we're at the finalizing stage. So my goal is to have the demo of level 1 ready to such an extent that you could say this is pretty much how it's going to look, how it's going to feel, how it's going to sound. Because I always find it weird if you have demos and the developer claims things like, oh, this will be much improved, oh, this will look much better, this will be much better, and this and that, and you can say all these promises, and I want to really deliver on something with the demo. So really a lot of things that you would say at this point, let's leave it like it is, it's good enough for the moment. I want to have it finalized, and I'm not letting things slip by because I'm really dedicated to deliver, like a quality game. Probably not in the realms of AAA because AAA games cost millions and millions of dollars these days. But I think we're going to make up for it with a decent soundtrack, a good story, interesting characters, interesting missions with different things to do. And so, yeah, to sum it up shortly, in short, the demo should be, I think, September, October, but we're working hard on it and we're not cutting slack. So that's it. Want to say hello to a couple of people. Retro Collection says last time you were live was GoldenEye 25. Yes, that's quite a while ago. Pixel Expedition, hello. Matt, hello. Yes, the wish list link to the video description. Yeah, that's right. You're right. Fossen, hello. Exactly. Yeah, remember that name as well. You've been around a long time. That's great, man. Matt says, appreciate the dev transparency. A lot of other indie studios could learn a lot. Thank you very much. Well, I love to keep you guys, in the loop about everything. And, sometimes I see like, at the moment where we do this development where we really go in depth, like with gun animations or muscle flash visual effects or whatever have you. There's so many iterations and there's so much stuff you work on, and you sometimes think, oh, I could share this, and then you say, oh no, but it doesn't look good. I mean, people, they're not always able to extrapolate what you show them to what it will be one day, and they just say, oh, shitty graphics. Yeah, it's in development, sure, it's not finalized yet. So I'm a little hesitant sometimes, but the other, on the other side, I say to myself, why not? Why not share these things? I mean, maybe there will be a couple of interesting things. I'm personally very interested in, behind the scenes making offs of movies, of games, and especially, our favorite titles. I mean, I assume many of you, are into retro gaming as well. Retro going back to the 90s, early 2000s. And the interest in game development was not as big as it is nowadays. So oftentimes you don't find a vast collection of behind the scenes, and that's something I want to do differently because nowadays we have the means to do that. So there's really no excuse not to do it. So hello and welcome everybody one more time. Please feel free to ask your questions. I'm open to anything. You can ask anything. I'm willing to share all I can do, all I can. I always have to be a little bit careful because, in the olden days when I worked on Bond stuff, there was really nothing was off limits because you could show maps, people knew it. You knew it from the movies or you knew it from the game itself. You knew what the story was, what happened, which characters were turncoats or whatever. That was a given, so there was no secrets you could give away. It's a different thing with Dangerous Connections because there's a lot of twists and turns and the maps are not known, and I want to show some things of the maps, but I don't want to give away too much because you should still be able to experience it the first time and not know, oh, now I'm in this map and this is going to happen, this is going to happen. There we go, and so I really have to be careful because I would love to share everything that I can. Same goes for the music. So this is where we are at the moment. Just a little reminder to start things off. It would be great if you could wish list this game on Steam if you are on Steam. And also, I'd like to recommend to have a visit the homepage, dangerous-connections.com, where you find a lot of information, pictures, also a lot of questions to frequently asked questions. You find the answers there. There's also a donation button that you can use to donate something to development. I don't press you, I don't urge you, and I don't beg you. But if you think this is something worth your hard-earned money, then it's very appreciated. So, don't make me feel old now. Well, how do you say you're always just as old as you feel, right? Okay. So, I have covered a bit of the current state we're in. Like I say, we had a couple of technical issues that we tried to sort out. We sorted them out. Right now, we're working on weapons development, or weapons finalization more, especially the visual effects of the weapons. So muzzle flashes, muzzle smoke, impact effects, and all of these things. That's the current state, and we still have a 2-page list of things that need to be done. Because some of you have also pointed out already, telling by the short clips of the teaser trailer, of the announcement trailer, that the AI seemed to be pretty dumb. And I had a good laugh over that, because you can hardly see anything of the AI in the announcement trailer, but still it was enough to give away that these guys were not very clever. And you were right. Of course, I saw extended footage. The stuff that I picked for the announcement trailer or announcement teaser trailer was just, cherry picking. But I saw vast amounts of recorded game footage, so to speak, and the AI was really insanely dumb. I mean, we've used quite a popular and otherwise good AI tool, but I was looking at the footage and I was like, well, most of the soldiers, they take like 4 to 5 seconds until they see you, much less start to open fire. They don't take cover, they don't use any tactics, so it's really just it becomes one of those where you just shoot people. It's not, it's like really dumbass gameplay. And I told Arsalan, we gotta improve massively on that, because also in preparation for making this game, I read many game reviews, as I often do, and I watch game reviews just to be in the loop and to sort of know what are the do's and don'ts of game development. And AI is something that is often referred to and often pointed out. If it's good, sometimes it's mentioned, but sure as hell, if it's bad, it's going to be pointed out. Absolutely. So I said the AI is something, the enemy AI is something that really has to be solid, because in an FPS spy game, there's going to be a lot of shooting, and if that's not fun, and the enemies are just dumb, and you can basically just mow them down with any weapon you have. That's just bad gameplay. So we're really going to improve on that, and then we still have all the implementation of the music to do. I have composed the music for, I think, 9 to 10 levels. Programmed it as well, so everything is set up. It can just be implemented in the game. And we have other things like many visual fixes that we have to do, and so on. So the list is still vast. So we have a lot of things to do still, so we can finally release the demo of the first level. Hello, Paolo. Nice to have you here. And that's the current state. Took only 15 minutes. Wow. And I think now I'm going to show you a couple of things right now. So the first thing I want to point out is a couple of people on Twitter or X have mentioned, what's the reason behind the name of Dangerous Connections? Well, the main reason is because I thought it sounded cool, and it sounded somewhat intriguing, and it sounded to me also like it could be, like the overtitle to a series, like where you have a series of games. Now, of course, first of all, we're going to do one, and that has to be rather successful, and bring back the funds in order to finance a second one. But this one takes place in 1987, mainly in the Soviet Union, or like brother states, Cuba and so on. And I hope that this game will be fairly successful because I'm already planning a second part, which will mainly take place in the GDR, which is something that a part of history that I found very fascinating and interesting. And of course, living in Switzerland, this is very close to Germany. And so there are many people I could talk to and, find information about. During development of maps and so on, where you just sometimes days and days on end, you just paint plans and place buildings and place vehicles and so on. You just have to have something on the side. You're not actively watching it, but it's nice to have something on the side. I started to watch Better Call Saul a bit, which to me is a bit overhyped, to be honest. And most of the time, I just watch Soviet Union documentaries, documentaries about Soviet buildings, the KGB, about Brezhnev, about Gorbachev, about Yeltsin and the GDR. I just watch documentaries just to gain knowledge and to be in that world a little bit, which puts you in that place of mind, so you can you feel a little bit like being there, which helps a lot. Um, yeah, Alex, that's a good point. Alex just asked what role does stealth play in the game and how is it implemented? What kind of gadgets and weapons will the players have access to? So, for people who are a little bit interested in the whole espionage topic, of course, there's a vast collection or a vast list of secret things that happened or that existed back then. Like button cameras, like fountain pens that had certain things they could do, and yeah, what else? Concealed weapons like briefcases with an MP5K built into it. I think that's something is still used by certain Secret Service agencies and still nowadays. Um, let's say in Dangerous Connections, there's going to be a certain amount of stealth, but it's not going to be as unforgiving and as hard like in games like Splinter Cell. Because I played these type of games as well, and I just find them very frustrating. I think you should have the option to go stealth, but also if you want, you could make a level like all guns blazing. You could still kill a lot of people if you do it covertly. Of course, if your cover is blown, there's like 2 to 3 levels where your cover is blown, the mission is over basically because the story could not proceed in that matter. And Dangerous Connections, coming back to the name, is important because there's going to be I would say 5 to 6 levels where you have to be very vigilant. You have to be careful because let's take, for instance, level 7, where you have to be able to enter like a leader's mansion, a Soviet mansion, and before you get into this mansion, you have to drive. You have to do a short drive, and then you see a couple of houses nearby, and then you can go talk to these people. There's going to be a simple dialogue system. Again, there was something that we're still really thinking about how to do it because I was really adamant at having everyone or the enemies, mostly speaking, or enemies or inhabitants or neighbors or whatever, to speak the native language of those countries. But still, since in this supposed story, you're Dan Morris, who is quite well versed in languages, first and foremost Russian or languages or dialects spoken in the Soviet Union. You should of course be able to understand. So there's going to be subtitles. Also thought about doing something like the movie Hunt for Red October does, where in the first couple of minutes everyone speaks Russian on the submarine, and then they slowly do this very psychologically clever fade, and from then on they all speak English, but you think it is Russian somewhere behind in the back of your head because they spoke Russian first, but it's like your mind tricks you into thinking that you see them or hear them talk Russian, but you understand it very well because you're part of that team. But that's very complicated to do in the game. I don't think it will pull it off, so we're going to be subtitles. Now, coming back to Dangerous Connections, and then you can visit a couple of neighbors to find out possibly how to access the villa, how to be able to sneak in. And you have various options, for instance, before you enter the mansion. You have to find out how you can actually access it, undercover. And then maybe in the neighborhood there are going to be 2 to 3 houses, and if you go to the wrong person, I mean that person may be connected to the KGB. You have to do a bit of digging, and you have to be careful. Maybe look out for some clues, because if you talk to the wrong person, who's maybe connected to the KGB, they're going to inform the people inside the mansion, and still you could finish the level, but it's going to be much harder. If you ask the right person, they're going to tell you about a secret passage or something that allows you to access the mansion. Another example is a later level where you are in a part of the city, right? And you start in this thing, and then you have to be able to, because you have found out in the previous level that there's 2 important people going to meet and talk about the location of an important location that you need to find out to, progress the story. And then there's a couple of ways how you can actually find out where, and you just know these people are going to meet, but you don't know where, because there's these, like you're in the city district where there's a couple of these old Soviet houses, like the Khrushchevka, that are just basically these big buildings with many apartments in there. And then there's a couple of ways that you can actually find it out. You walk through the street, you roam a little bit, and then you find a bum somewhere, and then you can take his key, go to his apartment, and maybe you'll be able to spot where it takes place. You can also talk to an old babushka, and she's going to tell you, she needs help to carry her groceries up into her apartment. And if you help her, she's going to offer you a cup of coffee. You help her bring the groceries to her apartment. The apartment, of course, is located just overlooking the block where or the housings. And then you take the groceries up, and she's going to look for the coffee, which allows you to use one of these, they look like little rifles, and you can actually scan the buildings to, they're like listening devices that can actually penetrate through walls, and you can listen into discussions. And then you have to know how to find out codes, because of course these 2 people that are meeting in the safe house, they're not openly going to talk about like bombs and stuff, but they're going to use code language. And of course you're going to hear many families and people talking to each other, and you have to be able to decipher, reading code or listening to code, which people are talking about the important things. And in some levels, there are also going to be certain people that sort of walk up to you, and that they're going to engage in conversation, and they're going to, lend a helping hand. Sometimes they have a believable background story, like they used to be in a secret service or like something like that, or like some state security service, and they're going to offer you help. And in some cases, you can trust them, and they will help you actually. And in some cases, they will rat on you, and this will prompt in your arrest. Actually, you will be arrested, and then before you can access the next level that would come chronologically, you first have to get out of a prison, and then you can resume the mission, and so on. So these are the things. So that's why it's called dangerous connections, because you always have to be careful about the connections and know which ones will actually make your missions easier or allow you to complete a mission, and which ones are just going to rat out on you, basically. So I'm going to catch up on some questions. Was there a character based on anyone from Better Call Saul? No, actually not, Alex. Because I have developed most of the main characters, at least, I've developed before I actually started to watch Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul I started to watch like 2 weeks ago, when I had a week off. Just then I had to do this, strenuous work in level 6, where I had to just, like I said, hours and hours just painting plans and stuff, and I wanted to have something on the side. So no, I'm just thinking which characters are based on someone. I don't think anyone is particularly based on anyone. Maybe visually there are a couple of characters that resemble a couple of my favorite actors. I say resemble because Well, after the disaster that was GoldenEye 25's outcome, I'm very, very careful about, likeness, copyright, and all like that, all these things. I mean, it's still a little bit of a trauma that sticks with me. So I'm really careful about these things. So, yeah. Um, let's see. Shoes with hidden blades. Yes, about the gadgets. So, like I said, there's going to be like listening devices. There's going to be all sorts of these spy gadgets. I mean, you have this Zippo lighter that turns into a pistol, and then you're also going to dabble around with bugs. You're going to have to tap wires. You're going to have to build like impromptu devices that allow you to track down bugs so you can actually find them and destroy them. So there's going to be all sorts of these things. It's important for me to point out that actually, so it is a spy game. It is not a straight up shooter. There's still going to be a fair amount of shooting, but there's going to be also many spy elements and like these connection things and story and everything. Because, like a shooter game just focusing straightly on shooting becomes boring after a certain while. Then Alex asks, are there any puzzle solving elements in the gameplay? Puzzle solving, let me think. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? I think I have an idea what you mean, but maybe you could give an example or something that, not that I just ramble on about things and it's not what you meant. What other games were your inspirations for Dangerous Connections apart from the obvious big Hitman fan? Well, mentioning Hitman, I love Hitman. I've played probably every part since it first came out. No, I think I started with Contracts. Really, that was the first one I consciously played, and I love this sandbox principle. And like I say, like for instance, the level I talked about before, this city district level is going to have a little bit of these Hitman elements because there's various ways you can go about things. Or there's the VIP security prison. Where you're disguised as a KGB officer, and if you play a certain way, you can basically solve the mission without firing a single shot. You can, fire shots but covertly, or you could actually just let all hell break loose, however you wish to play. And there's like different like what is it called in the English version of Hitman? Because I've always just played Hitman in German. There's like the opportunities, I think it is the right word, where you can where you get indications. Oh, here's something interesting that could help you solve the level or go through the level. Some levels are gonna have a little bit like these elements. That's one thing. But not a straight, like Hitman copy. And of course, it's going to be FPS. Next question, Fossen. Will we have a partner on certain missions or are you alone? No, actually, there are 2 or 3 levels where you're going to have a partner, at least for a certain segment of the level. So there's definitely going to be that. Bembop Broodkopf, hello. You have to watch Better Call Saul to the end, trust me. Yeah, well, I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, I've enjoyed it fairly, and I think I really like Bob Odenkirk's performance, and the side characters as well. I enjoyed them pretty much, as well as oh god, what's the other actor's name? The bald one who was in Beverly Hills Cop 1. I just know him from that role. He's really cool too. No, I mean it's a fairly cool series, but it's not like when you read the reviews online where you go, "This is the best thing that happened to humanity ever." I wouldn't give it that much credit. It's entertaining, but it's not like revolutionizing. It doesn't have the impact on me like Sopranos had, or the Chernobyl miniseries. That was really brilliant. Or there's a German series called Weissensee. It's really about it takes place in the GDR. It goes from like mid to end GDR times to after when the Berlin Wall came down. So it's really interesting, and it's 2 opposing families and a lot of drama and all the Stasi stories and so on. That's a really great series. I think those are my three most favorite series. And of course, Better Call Saul is entertaining, but it didn't have nearly the impact that I would have expected it would have. Okay, you guys really are rooting for Better Call Saul. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna keep watching it. Absolutely. I think I'm halfway into season 2 or 3, somewhere around these parts. Yeah, I love the character of Saul basically because he's a little bit funny and still, he started out as a low life a little bit and then he gets involved in these things and it's interesting. It's a cool concept. Hannibal was a good series. Hmm. Okay. Have I heard about that? I think it rings a bell somewhere, but I can't put my finger on it right now. Okay, but let me proceed talking about dangerous connections. And also there were some questions raised, about sort of. I mean, I have to be honest. I have gotten in touch with about 10 to 15 game development studios, 3D modelers, and so on, because I mainly rely on 3D assets that I find on the internet. I mean, I spent a lot of time looking for, like certain Soviet buildings, vehicles, and so on. But still, I want to have a couple of things that are custom made. I can't have everything custom made because that's just too expensive, way too expensive. And actually, by one or two developers, they turned me down pretty harshly by saying that they do not support a propaganda game like this, which I had a little chuckle over because, I mean, I sort of understand that in the current climates, world climates that we're in, one could perceive it as this, but believe me, this is entertainment. This is fiction. It takes place in the Cold War, of course. This happened. This was a thing. There's going to be references to real life things that happened back then. But at the same time, I always think in wars, in war times, be it like a passive war, like the Cold War or whatever. You can't think black and white. There's always no one. Some people say in a war, nobody's innocent, and that's kind of the way that I want to portray this game. That you're not just the good West against the bad East, because I mean all political systems, they have their flaws and their advantages and so on. Some are more successful. I mean history proved that time and time again, and some are less. But it's not like a propaganda game that just says, oh, everything that was Soviet or everything that was in the East was just bad and mean and evil and stuff like that. And that's also why the main character of Dan Morris sees things more diversely, Yeah, there you go. The propaganda game, yeah. Alex asks, how do you plan to support the game post-launch? Any plans for updates or expansions? I think I've heard you say no multiplayer. Yeah, so multiplayer is definitely not planned because first of all, it's something I do not enjoy myself, and I think with Battlefield and Call of Duty, and there's so many, and not even getting into the free-to-play stuff. There's so many multiplayer-focused games out nowadays. Don't know why I should make the same. I really much rather like to spend all my effort and money and time into building a very solid first single player game with a solid, story, characters, gameplay, missions. Also that the missions have a nice variety to them. You have a sniping level, you have a chase level, you have like more like stealth level and so on. So I'm more focused on that. I don't think I'm gonna add expansion packs and stuff like that. I think what I want to do, if it is fairly successful, and if it makes back some money, I would like to do more parts of this game. I mean, like I said, I want Dangerous Connections to be like a series of games. The first, of course, being the GOAT, as young folks say nowadays, the original, and then you have like Dangerous Connections GDR. Well, it's going to be a more elaborate title than that, or you have Dangerous Connections inside the IRA and stuff like that. But expansion packs, not so much, because also that's another important thing. I mean, all with these microtransactions nowadays, and these politics of updates and season passes and all this financial bullshit that these companies do nowadays, and many of them do. I want to stay away from that. First of all, when you buy the game, when it's done, it should be in a state where it's playable. You don't have to do like hours worth of updates first. You don't have to patch things. It should be really good as it is as you download it. And yeah, that's basically it. So it's like in the old days where you go into the store, you buy the CD-ROM of the game or the DVD of the game, you put it into your computer, install it, and that's it. That's kind of the experience that I'm going for. Another question: are Agent Morris going to wear a dive watch like Bond? If yes, will it be useful as a gadget, like being equipped with a laser? Uh, a watch, not really so much. I've not planned on giving him a watch yet. And like you pointed out yourself, like the watch thing has been such a James Bond thing that I don't think, it will come of it as a copy of that. And I would rather like to spend some time thinking about more, well, other ways to introduce gadgets. I also thought about, like use it in the glasses. Oh, of course, yeah, you could say that has also been done in the world is not enough with the X-ray glasses, but like where you have like a laser build in the glasses or anything like that, or something with the ring. Again, also that has been done in James Bond, but I mean, practically every gadget imaginable has been done in the Bond universe. I could come with the cigarettes. That has also been done, or it's been spoofed like Austin Powers with the toothpaste and so on. So it's hard to come up with like original gadgets, but we're working on it. But a watch probably won't be part of that. So, like, let me go into a couple of features that this game will have. So, I mean, with the assets that are at your disposal nowadays, you could implement what you want. But I think it is also important to know what you want to have in there and what you don't want to have in there. Because, like I say, you want to have a helicopter simulator in your FPS game, you can get an asset that does that for you. You want to have vehicles, you can have an asset that does that for you. You want to have like puzzles in the gameplay, you can add anything you want, everything you want. But my question, what I always ask myself is it really going to be beneficial to the gameplay? And second question is it really done well? Can it be done well? I mean, it is easy to just download an asset which allows you to fly a helicopter and do a hunting section, with a helicopter. But is it actually going to perform well? Is it going to feel satisfying? Is it going to feel good? Is it going to feel realistic? Because if it doesn't work right and doesn't feel right, why put it in there? And so sometimes you just got to ditch ideas, for the better of the game, actually. Because many of us have ideas and we could cram everything we want into the game. But unless it can really be done well, my motto is to keep it out of the thing and not to overcrowd it with. Because we've had a couple of games in gaming history that try to be everything. Like a simulation, like a shooter, like a driving game, like a puzzle solving game. And most of the times, one or two of these elements work great, and the rest is just. You could also take very famous examples like GTA, where like so many things are so right, but flying, for instance, is just it's not fun usually, But what we're going to have is a very rudimentary dialogue system, like I said, because you have to find out dangerous connections, or like be able to tell which ones have you and which not. Then we're going to have a couple of cars because, vehicles from that era, from the Soviet era, they're set pieces, they're decoration, but it also, I think, adds to the whole experience of such a game. So I think, yeah, that's really what I wanted to talk about up until now. And I think, now I'm going to show you a couple things. But of course, I'm always also watching the chat, and I'm ready to answer everything you want to know. I hope you enjoy this so far. It's been 40 minutes, nothing but rambling from my side. I hope this is not too boring. But I mean, on the other side, it is a Q&A live stream. So yeah, I hope that's all right. And just a little reminder, if you have not up until now, please make sure to wishlist this game on Steam and also visit our homepage, dangerous-connections.com. So any pencil lookalike weapons in the game? I'm a little puzzled, Foster, and you have to follow up on that. Pencil lookalike weapon, do you mean like the gag that was done in GoldenEye, like the AK looked like a pencil or a battery, depending on who you ask, or pencil? No, so basically the main gadget you're going to have is like your field pad. It's this is like an experimental precursor of the iPad, which is going to serve as your pause menu, so to speak, and also will feed you with some intel and stuff. Alex, sorry to ask, it must have been a traumatic experience. Is there anything that stayed from your GoldenEye 25 project? Did you completely ditch that project, or there's a version you play yourself? Considering budget constraints, how do you plan to market and promote your game to reach a wide audience? So let me get into the GoldenEye 25 thing first. And you don't, guys, you don't have to feel bad about asking anything about GoldenEye 25. I mean, it's been really an F up experience in the end. It's really it's not a massive surprise that it happened, what happened, but I mean, that's how things go. And I mean, many nice things came out of it. I mean, we had the project that came after that unfortunately was also abandoned, but all of that subsequently led to Dangerous Connections, so I'm not complaining myself. If anything stayed, no, not really. I mean, I have all the soundtracks and the soundtrack projects, so the programming of the soundtrack and everything I still have on my PC. And other than that, well, like footage, pictures, videos, I have that stuff somewhere on my PC, but I don't have anything playable because there never was anything playable. I mean, in the best time, we had like a couple of AI bots in a couple of levels that you could walk through and basically shoot, but there was not a lot to it. And I mean, most of the things were not completed, so you could not actually play a lot, so to speak. That's it. And considering the budget constraints, the plan to market and promote the game, I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest, because like I say, coming out of GoldenEye 25 and Spies and these things, I hoped for a little more media coverage by this project. Then again, I can understand there's so many things coming out, and nowadays there's so many indie developers that do things. A lot of things also never see the light of day, and so you can't always pick up on everything that comes out. But I knew a couple of people who covered like GoldenEye 25 and Spies and stuff, and I got in touch with them and basically asked them, hey, it would be cool if you could help promote this a little bit. Never heard back from them, so that's a little bit difficult. But I don't want to give away too much at this point, but actually, considering the budget constraints and so on, I have a couple of offers, and a couple of companies got in touch, game development companies as well as marketing companies, and I'm at this point just trying to finish the demo of the first level, so actually I can provide it to them and actually see if anything will really materialize. But if one of these deals should ever come to life, it will be a whole other thing. And then we can also talk about things like console ports and so on. But these things are going on in the background. It's just, every time when it comes to companies and contracts and so on, you have to be really careful what you say and what you don't say, because nothing has been signed yet, and but there's definitely some interest around, so it's enough to keep the spirits up, And otherwise, I always say good projects it's like that Jurassic Park quote, life always finds its way. So just keeping at it, trying to do my bit of social media posts and like these streams and so on, just to keep the flame burning and to know that this is being worked on and so on. That's basically what I can do at this point. So, but from small joke to serious ish, any AK-47s, AK-74s will be able to pick up weapons, just ammo for primary pistols. Sounds good. Yeah, Alexa, absolutely. I would love a console port as well because it just broadens, the pool of people that can potentially play it. So I would really love that as well. But a console port or PC port, whichever comes first, always has to be done well because I remember, I come from the times and you guys as well where we were plagued with bad console ports or bad PC ports, and if that's not done right, it just ruins the experience. Now back to the weapons questions. Yes, there are going to be a couple of AK inspired weapons. You catch my drift. And I was very adamant at having different stages and different models of AKs because I think it's not the best look if like in a Cold War shooter game, every time you pick up an AK from an enemy, it looks exactly the same. So they're going to be like different versions of the AK, AKM, AK-74, AK-74S, AK-47, AK-40, 74SU, and so on. And sometimes they're going to be various models, some with rust on them, some not. So there's really a bit of variety to the weapons because the enemies are mainly going to carry these AKs, as well as Makarovs, Tokarevs, and so on. So basically, you come. Each mission starts with a couple of weapons that you bring along. So usually a pistol, some sort of submachine gun, or rifle, or what have you. Maybe grenades, knife, and these things, and the rest you can pick up. But like I say, the enemies are mainly going to carry these typical Soviet era Warsaw Pact weapons, AKs, Dragunov, Makarov, Tokarev, even the club in some cases, and so on. So that's basically your arsenal. Hello, Aspros. Looking forward to seeing more of Dangerous Connections and new music. That's cool. Thank you very much. Great to have you here. And I think you've joined in at the right time because now I think we're going to have a look at a couple of things that I also want to show you. But please, again, feel free to ask your questions if you have any. Let me switch to... Oh, yeah. Just another question. Yeah. The CZ75 is actually in the game. This weapon is going to be... It's going to be the 85, not the 75. But it's in there. Also the Walther, Desert Eagle... what else? Well, there's quite a list of weapons. MP5, MP5K, Styrock, basically all the guns that you know from the 80s, 90s era movies and games and so on. It's all going to be there. Now, let me see. Are you allowed to call the guns by the real life names, or do you have to change them? No, actually, that's a good point, Alex. Absolutely not am I going to use the real life names. I mean, there are just as many cases of game developers, getting by using real, trademarks and stuff like that. But it's too difficult and it's too dangerous because nowadays, as we have learned the hard way, many companies are just out there to sue people. No matter how legitimate or how reasonable such a thing is. I mean, there was a case that I read because I also had a lawyer do some research for me, which was actually quite expensive, but I just wanted to clear that about the vehicles. And there was a case, in the case of Call of Duty or Battlefield, where I don't know if it was General Motors or a company I don't remember the company, but they sued, I think Activision or the developers of one of the Call of Duty or Battlefield games because they used Humvees in their games without getting license rights and everything. Of course, Call of Duty or Battlefield, those are like the big juggernaut titles. I mean, let's be honest. I don't think any of these companies will ever know about Dangerous Connections. But like I say, I have still this a little bit of this trauma, sitting in my neck about when we call GoldenEye 25. So surely the guns are not going to have the names, the original names. There's not going to be any brands, and like I mentioned, the vehicles, because I think when you do a Soviet era game, for the look and feel of the game, it's very important to have these vehicles in there. You're talking about, well, I'm not going to say the brands now, because one of those things that the lawyer said is that actually, if you remove the logos and the brands and everything, and you don't call it this real life car's brand or name, you really shouldn't have any problems. You should get by with it. Still, one of these companies could come after you, because there's also like the shapes of cars can be, intellectual property. And I ask myself, I mean, some of these companies, they don't exist anymore. They don't exist anymore. They were like, car manufacturers behind the Iron Curtain. Again, not seeing the names now, but some of these don't exist even anymore. But some still do, and some do have successors, and so you still got to be a little careful about that. And he basically said, if the car does not have a very, very exotic design that clearly stands out, and can only be that car from that manufacturer, you should be safe. And many cars have like comparable counterparts from other countries and so on, especially since many of these Eastern Bloc cars, their design was copied from other brands and other car models and so on. Many of them actually. So it's rather safe to use that. The only thing that he said that I have to be careful with is do promotion with them. So like promote, like you can drive this car in this game, and you can like use this car, even with a fake name, is a little bit dangerous. So I'm trying to steer clear from these things. Do you come from Germany? No, Switzerland actually. Thank you for the answer. It's my pleasure. Are there going to be unlockable rewards and cheats just like GoldenEye Perfect Dark? Yes, something similar. We're going to have something similar in that. Because I think, what makes a game great is also its replayability. Case in point, Hitman, where you can play the whole game like easily 4 or 5 times, just trying to go about the missions in different ways each time. And that's something that I want to be able to provide as well. So yeah, that's a good point. And also, have unlockable things like guns, or yeah. I think if you play through the whole game, you should be able to play every level with all weapons, for instance, like cheats, infinite ammo, and so on. That would be really fun, because that's something I used to love too. Talking about Hitman contracts, where you had like, I think 40 to 50 weapons, was a lot of fun. If you need to outsource any 3D work, you should look into artists who are contributing towards Time Splitters Rewind fan-made 3D project. Some of them have been doing some great work. Thanks for the information. Best to play it safe, and we will 99% know what weapon it represents. Well, to be honest, there's still models I bought from the internet, so they're still pretty much the original, but I'm just not going to use the name. I mean, let's be honest, there's so many games out there with AKs and what have you. And, you're still never safe. I mean, any manufacturer and any car or weapon manufacturer could send a letter and say, we don't want this gun to be in your game. We don't want this vehicle to be represented in your game. It can happen, but then you just take it out and be done with it. I mean, then again, at one point I was considering, hiring a 3D artist who would just, basically do copies of those cars, for instance, and just make them look a little bit like them, but not one-to-one copies. But then again, I said, I mean, it's still a game. It's a spy game that references historic events. Is set in a certain historic time in the Cold War era, and it would not feel right if you would just have this. Oh, it takes place in the Soviet Union. It takes place in 1987, but all the cars just look similar to what they had. All weapons look similar to what they used. I mean, that would be a joke too. I mean, so I'm just going to try it. I try to play it safe where I can, and if some manufacturer actually thinks it's a good idea to come after a small developer, then by all means, going to take it out, and that's it. Okay, let me just see. What about the Cougar revolver? No, there's not going to be a revolver in Dangerous Connections, and that has a simple reason. I just don't like revolvers. I think they look odd. They always take me back to this Wild West setting, which is something. I mean, I love country music and so on, but the whole I can't watch Western movies for whatever reason. With the steam trains and carriages and horses and revolvers and all that stuff. That's absolutely not my kind of thing. So that's why no revolvers in this game. Um, how did you go about getting Dr. Doak in the game? Well, Dr. Doak is basically he's a fantastic guy. He's been a massive supporter all the way back to GoldenEye 25, where he just basically supported us nonstop. He was on board with Spies as well. He supported us all the time. And then when Spies was abandoned and I told him about this project, he was very supportive once again. And one day I just asked him, "Hey, how about we put your likeness to sort of have you come back?" Um, because this game takes place in 1987, and the incident in GoldenEye took place just a couple of years earlier than that. Um, I asked him, "Yeah, basically, you want to be in a game?" And he said, "Absolutely, by all means." And I said, "Well, then you're going to, we're going to relive your character who's fled this facility because, of course, it was blown up, and is now working in a different facility, in a different job, so to speak." Which is that is the only thing in this game. I mean, I want this game to be fairly realistic, but that's a little liberty I took, just as a funny reference. And then at one point I asked him, "Hey, what'd be really cool if you not only have your likeness in there like we had in GoldenEye, but also your voice? Would you do a little bit of voice acting?" And he said, "Absolutely." And he even got a microphone and stuff. At one point, I planned on flying over to the UK and record a couple of lines with him, but then he said no, he can actually do it himself, and we recorded a couple of clips of dialogue and really fun. And that actually triggered a whole slew of people that actually became part of Dangerous Connections. I mean, you can also watch the gallery on dangerous-connections.com. We also have, Jeff Timoshuk, who was a composer on Bond games, Ed Lima, who was a James Bond game composer. We have Adrian Smith, who's also a big supporter of our project, who was also working on GoldenEye back then. And and a couple of more people, and maybe some more will join us along the way development. But it's also, like this love letter to the people who helped us shaped who we are and actually really defined our childhood with these games. I still dream about getting people on board that are also in GoldenEye. Like, I would absolutely love to have Ken Loeb's likeness in the game because, I mean, he was quite essential in the whole making of GoldenEye, and other people of the development team, like Duncan Botwood and so on. But not every person is so easy to get in touch with. But who knows? So, guys, I finally want to show you a couple of things, and let me just switch over to the desktop view. Just see if that works. Okay, so here's a little thing I've prepared. just so you can see. By the way, this in the background, this is my first dog. His name was Max. Really loved him. Great dog. But so right now, like I said, we're working on development. I want to show you a couple of things. For certain things, you know, destruction is a very important topic. So in some cases, you just have decals when something is being shot at and so on. And sometimes you need bespoke destroyed models. So one of our model makers, 3D models, actually just, you know, takes care of modeling, you know, destroyed versions of like this monitor, for instance. We can just watch a couple of things here as well. There's a couple of monitors. We're just going, if you shoot them, they're just going to go up in flames, you know, with a massive bang, you know, sparks, electrical sparks flying around, an explosion, implosion, and so on. So that's a little bit of that. Here's an old Soviet computer, you know, just one part of the elements. You're just going to, this is how it looks when it's broken. This is just a 3D modeling. The textures have not been applied yet, so that's a little bit of development for you. And now another thing that I want to talk about is one of the effects it took us a very long time to make was actually when you too close to one of the very big explosions, you actually going to fly back. And this was really tricky to do because you have to combine effects, 3D, and so on. And so, first of all, let's just have a look at how it looked, the general interaction animation. So how it looked when you fly back from a massive explosion. So this is basically what you start with. Just the 3D animation of your character. Now this has already been, you know, equipped with sounds and so on. And now the first iteration in-game looked like this. So you can see there's so much wrong with it. And we had to spend so much time, you know, adjusting the trajectory of your wave flying back, and then we had to adjust the effects. And then also the get up stuff is not synced nicely and so on. And there were so many things, and you know, there came like 15, 20, 30 steps in between until we wound up with a thing that I think now looks pretty decent. Now, mind you, the explosion effect of the big explosion is not finalized yet. And this is the only time in the game, because like I said, I want it to be fairly realistic, the whole thing. So there's not going to be, we had a discussion once where when you snipe, do we want to have this famous, like where the camera follows the bullet and, you know, hits the target? But I want to say, no, you know, this is a first-person shooter. You should always be in control. And nothing should take you out of that control. No cutscenes, no in-game cutscenes, no like platforming, no stuff like that. You should always be in control of everything. The only small exception is if you are very close to a massive explosion. There's like this little bit of slow motion effect, just to amplify what's going on. And I think that's also, it can, you know, you can make an argument for that, because when things are also car accidents, stuff like that happens in real life, you feel a little bit like it happens in slow motion. So I think we could get away with that. Yeah. This is new to me on FPS. Yeah, thank you very much. So let's see how it looks if you blow up a massive tank and you're too close to it. Let's have a look.
That was a blast.
So I think there's This was quite cool. So let me talk you through a little bit. So there's the explosion, and it takes just a couple of milliseconds for the actual blast or the actual, like shockwave hitting you. Bang. And since it's happening in slow motion, now you lose the gun, you fly back, bang, bang, you land on the floor. On the ground, sorry. And then you have the pole, flying to the ground. And then you have getting up. And then, of course, a bit of ringing in your ear, because I think that was realistic. I mean, fortunately, I was never that close to a massive explosion, but I think that was actually what happens when such a loud thing occurs near you. Well, some married people know what it's like to have such a loud thing near you. Sorry, I had to go with that one. Okay, let's have a watch one more time. And everything loses color a bit. And then you regain conscious.
That was a blast.
And of course, you're going to have one of these one-liners. That's a given. So, and thank you. Glad you guys like it. That's great to hear. And since we're with explosions, we're going to look at a couple of weapons things. Kevin, I love the cinematic approach. Do you plan to do explosions from different sides, behind, side, etc.? As far as we can, yes, absolutely. And of course, this effect only happens when you're quite close to the explosion. If you're a little further away, there's going to be the massive explosion, a bit of camera shaking, but of course not you flying away and all this stuff. Okay, and now let's look at a couple of... Yeah, I think so too. It's good to lose your gun and etc. Like I said, we try to be as realistic as we can. I mean, this is not AAA visual quality, but I mean, like I said in the beginning, AAA games, they just, they cost millions to make, and of course we can never be in that realm. But again, keep in mind also that this stuff is all in development, also the looks and everything. I can't promise you like AAA 2024 graphical fidelity, but we're trying to get as close as we can with the means that we have at our disposal. So, weapons. Let's take a look at in development and stuff from the weapons. By the way, will we have a silencer for our pistols, and can we equip unequipped? Or is it locked? No. Actually, for many weapons, I think for 4 or 5 pistols, you can actually have a silencer, as well as for a couple of the rifles. The Styrox surely has one. The MP5K has one, and so on. You can put them on, take them off, and so on at your will. So that's absolutely a thing. Yeah, Matt, I absolutely agree. That's what I believe too. I mean, AAA games that cost millions and millions, tens of millions sometimes, but they still are just, and I think, amazing graphics. They're fascinating the first couple of seconds or minutes, and then you get used to it, and it's just standard, and then it's just, everything is left on the story and the characters, and that's where I think we can really shine. Thanks, Alex. That's so nice to hear. Thank you. It's great to hear. So now let's take a look at the small Soviet rifle. Let's just call it that. So this is in development. Let's have a look. So I'm saying this is in development because there's a couple of problems. First of all, you can see we have smoke coming out of the barrel. Then there's an after smoke a little bit, and there's also smoke coming out of the chamber. This is much too big and much too dark. But like I say, this is these things we have to do now step by step. And maybe I can also point your attention towards the sounds, because what we have already done in the weapon setup and did too is that actually the shells falling to the ground, they have different sounds depending on the grounds that they fall onto. Now here you can hear that they fall onto snow, and we also have concrete, metal, and so on. So that's another thing. And there's a little bit of a problem. And you can also see something that I don't like, and that will be implemented later, is the movements. We want to have a little bit of a camera smoother, similar to GoldenEye, that, you know, the movement is not so erratic. And also the smoke receives light, so when you fire a weapon in dark areas, the smoke is almost invisible because it's in dark areas. Here it is a little more lit. And here you can see the erratic movement of the gun. I'm not a big fan of that. I want to smooth it out a little bit. That's still going to be done. But I don't want to have this weapon sway because, you know, presumably as a professional agent, you have the gun fixed in your shoulder. The shoulder stock is in your shoulder. So it's a fairly stiff movement. And I hate it when in games, you know, the weapon sways around like it's made with rubber. That's not realistic. But there's a bit of smoothing will be done. Sorry. The sound is amazing. Yeah, actually, that's the third iteration. Because on the sounds, weapon sounds, I'm really particular on, and this is one I think I'll use in the end because I'm really happy with that. And here you can see another problem, because now, first of all, the smoke is lit, so it becomes more dense and more visible. And since a machine gun fires at faster rates, it stacks up. That's something we still have to resolve, because now it's just too much. And you can see sort of yeah, it's not looking very nice. So we're still working on that. Okay, that's it so far. The after smoke looks cool. Yeah, I think so too. That was something, actually, that was an effect that we took from the cigarette. We actually put it on the gun as well because it just, yeah, like you say, it looks cool and realistic. How do you mean? Oh, did you mean like when you move in GoldenEye where you see the hand turn a bit when you move the camera? No, it's just that when you observe very closely GoldenEye, when you do it, let me show you. Let me just go back to my camera real quick just to show you what I mean. When you do this movement, it's not in GoldenEye. It's not like this, you know. But it's if it's very slightly when you move, it then slows down a little bit. And it does not do these robotic things. So I do this very slow motion. It starts very slow, becomes faster, and then it slows down again. So it smooths everything out, like you would also do. I mean, we're not robots. We don't move guns around like that. We do like that. So there's a little bit of smoothness, you know, when in the start and the ending of the movement. That's something we're going to implement a little bit later as well. So let's get back to the screen. Now, this is another video looking at the Soviet sniper rifle, and again, the small Soviet rifle. So this is a sniper rifle. So obviously the scope function is not done yet. And something we have fixed meanwhile already, but I don't have footage of that, is we've taken the sniper rifle a little closer to the camera, a little bit more centered. So because this is a really huge rifle, and here it looks a little bit small. Another question, do you always have the cigarettes and or lighter in inventory? Can you set fire to many things or only certain things? Actually, yeah, you will always have cigarettes, and the lighter is always going to be part of the mission. And no, you can't light everything on fire, but there's certain things where you're going to be able to throw your lighter in or the cigarette butts into, and it's going to light fire. But the main reason for the cigarettes is healing yourself, first and foremost, because we don't have auto heal. You can heal yourself through pills, taking a sip from your flask, or smoking a cigarette. Surely that's going to attract a lot of very funny people. So that's the reloading of the sniper rifle. And yeah, you see the equipped animation of the AK, the Soviet rifle. You know, first extending the barrel stock. Now it's equipped. Now it's good. And here you can hear the first version of the sound that I had. This is another important thing. I mean, in some games, you also have this inspect function, but in our case, this is going to be really useful because, as you can see, we do not have an ammo counter. We don't have, you know, like a health bar and stuff like that. And also we don't have a crosshair. So you really have to fire. You have to be pretty good at firing, and you can also, of course, zoom in. And that's another thing, because I want it to be quite a realistic approach. You'll have the option to turn on these things like crosshair and indications and so on. But by default, this is going to be how it is. So the inspect function actually has a functionality behind it. When you're not sure if there is ammo left in your magazine, you can actually have a look, and this will actually count the bullets that you fire. And if the mag is empty, there won't be any bullet in here. And it could also be the case that the mag is empty, but there's still one in the chamber. So that's for you to make sure. So you know, like in real life, you would know, oh, there's one in the chamber, but no more in the mag, or there's no bullets left at all, or there's still bullets left. Yeah, there you go. Let me catch up on a couple of comments. It's great, guys. Thank you for your interaction and all your comments. I really enjoy this. Max Payne 3 did something like that for long guns. Love the classic muzzle effect. Yeah, absolutely. I love that too. Yeah, Alex, you will be able to burn some things. Don't worry. Can you smoke while shooting? No, that's not implemented yet, but it may be a funny idea. I mean, going into the realms of Max Payne or Duke Nukem, yeah. That magazine check, will that be available for all weapons? Yes, all of them. And yeah, every weapon has. I mean, that has been a really expensive part of the whole development. I mean, we have bespoke weapons animation for every single weapon. So that's another thing. Yes. Is there never HUD or crosshair? No, not by default. But like I say, you can optionally turn it on. Yeah, motion sickness is mentioned because we also have, you know, the head bob. You can also turn that off, because I read in a couple of comments of other games and forums and stuff like that. Really, some people, you know, they really suffer from motion sickness, and so head bobbing and stuff like that can really kill the whole experience for them, or make a game, you know, like really unplayable for them. And of course, we want to avoid that. So you can turn off and on. All these things you can turn off and on. This shot flame reminded me of some scene from a movie. Wondering which one you mean. But by the way, this has been corrected now, because with this gun, it should not have the flames coming out left and right. It just goes straight out, because they have a different kind of flash hider than the usual Soviet rifles. This is the effect for the other Soviet rifles, because the way the muzzle flash piece is built, this only has the flame going straight out, so it's only a ball like you saw here. So this is, yeah, like this is more realistic. As you can see, let me just try to pause this. Yeah, there we go. Smoking while shooting, yeah, that's a really great idea. VR is not a question. Yeah, I think it will be technically doable, but I don't know if that's really safe to get into that, especially with the budget that we have. And now let's see. We had a couple of. Another thing we did is the impact sounds. Now this is not, as you can see, the graphics are quite different. This is just for rendering reasons now. So it doesn't look as good as it did before, but it's just so we can see things better, basically. So this is when shooting snow. You can also hear the impact sounds, impact in snow. This is not perfect yet, but this is like the first iteration. And the decals are still missing in this presentation. You can see a little bit of the decal stuff, but that still has to be debugged. And you can also hear the ricochets. We'll love that stuff. Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, I feel like it would be cool to smoke while in combat if you need help. Pretty badass and unique. Well, I definitely put it on the list, yeah. Is there any Bond girls or female villains? There is actually, no, Bond girls, thank you. There's actually going to be 2 potential love interests. But, like I say, Dan Morris is actually not a Bond type character. He's not, out to get the ladies and stuff like that. He is focused on his missions, and he has a little bit of more modern, some would refer to it as alpha male traits to him, where he's focused on his mission and his goal and his thing, and and one of these women will have a special connection to him. This is going to be, hopefully to you, interesting stuff. I don't want to give away too many information, Are there any other cool aspects like the heart is hiding this? Wait a second. Like the smoking to regenerate. Well, like I say, the smoking can be used to actually light things on fire, so the cigarette butt can light things on fire. And the pills are basically just there to heal you. And the flask, well, maybe the flask could also be used to spill some alcohol and then light it on fire, but I don't know about that yet. Again, there's a huge catalog of things, basics that we have to do first before we can actually come to these more fun bits. What about a dumb, friendly Natalia Simonova girl? Well, yeah, it's not planned yet, but let's keep on with the weapons. Okay. Here's another setup video of the impact effects. So this stuff doesn't look so great in these render settings, but I think you get the point. Here's another example of the impacts with the better graphics, with the better graphic settings. And the after smoke. There we go. And another example. Again, showing the smoke being better visible through lighting. And by the way, I'm a little bit surprised that none of you pointed out the sound effect, because the sound effect of this pistol may seem familiar to you. Yeah, well, there we go. I can just see people on YouTube doing headshots only John Wick playthrough now. The combat and everything about this is so satisfying to see. That's great to hear. Thank you, Canon. Thanks a lot. By the way, the level map where you show us these weapons, is it from a mission was just for showcase. No, this is actually from the first level, but all the for rendering, all the things have been turned off. So like everything that is nature, trees, foliage, details, buildings, and so on. Everything's been turned off. So this is the bare bone of the map layout, so to speak. Does the game have a theme song yet? Absolutely, yeah. There's a main theme. You can find a couple of videos on this YouTube channel where you can actually hear it. It's just sorry. Also, the bad guys have their theme and so on. That's absolutely with that, yeah. I think having multiple trails will really help you. You need to show all these things off. Yeah. Again, Alex, that's the thing. Many of you that are here today, and you actually know a bit of game development, and these things are all like showcases and they're worked on. But when releasing, I learned this the hard way in GoldenEye 25 and Spies, where actually when you show things off too early to the broad public, many people, they cannot make the difference between what is WIP, so work in progress, and what is actually the final thing. I remember a very famous example for GoldenEye 25 was where we released trailers and stuff, and people would also always point out the sort of lo-fi hand model. And of course, it was a given that was beta footage, if even. And so really have to be careful with what you present to the broad public, or versus what you present in a stream for more hardcore fans like we do now, so that's a little bit of a thing we have to be careful with. But I definitely want to record more footage, and definitely when the demo is ready, I want to have tons of footage out there. I also want to provide this demo to many people with gaming channels and so on. Hopefully they will record some footage as well. Did you use sounds from GoldenEye and enhance a little? I know this out of the ammo sound. Yeah, absolutely. So in many cases, most of the sounds, they're based on the most famous gun sounds heard in 80s and 90s movies and games, because there were pretty much, many of them were the same. I can show you a couple of examples later. But in some cases, it didn't always work because the original sound, they were too lo-fi. It worked in a movie like GoldenEye that had this grainy look and was a product of the 90s, but it doesn't work in a more modern-looking game like this. So I used the bass sound and combined them. Most of the weapons now, the sounds, they have like 3 to 4 different sounds combined, just to have this old school feel, but still have a modern sound to it. Let me just go through a couple of sound effects with you. Let me just find the folder, show of a couple of sound effects, weapons sound effects. And we also, of course, alarms and stuff. Let me just go through a couple of things. That's famous, right? Those are all familiar sounds, right? So, yeah, let me just see what else we have here. You know this one. Ah, that one. That one took me almost 1.5 years to find. It's I think the original sound is called Meat Locker Close or something like that. Something you would not really find through searching. And of course, let me see, what else do we have here? This one is very famous too. We just gotta have these in there, absolutely. I wouldn't make a shooter game without these. Then more modern interpretations of those. And then to have this Cold War feel to it, I've also hired a couple of native Russian speaking uh, voice actors to record a couple of lines.
Я должен смотреть на это.
Oh, that's myself actually.
Это нужно проверить. Я что-то слышал. Там кто-то есть? Я что-то слышал. Я проверю.
I'll let you see some attack lines here.
Берегись! Поживи давай быстрее! Пристрели его! Он должен умереть! Убей его прям, чертова собака! Умри! Я тебя достану, ублюдок!
And then we'll have some conversations as well.
Мне не терпится, наконец, выбраться отсюда. Я буду в хорошей квартире в Москве, и платить мне будут гораздо больше. Интересно, что приготовила моя жена сегодня вечером, а? Эй ты, принеси вон те коробки в кладовку и поторопись. Ну ты снова проверил? Я не хочу, чтобы на меня орали из-за того, что ты не делаешь свою работу.
And I think it's just, it's part of the whole experience of the levels to hear, when you have soldiers. I mean, that's another important thing. I really want to have these soldiers to have a life also. They should not be standing around waiting to be shot by you. They should be doing things and so on. So that's something that I really, I was adamant about. Well, let's see. And they also be doing something. Some of them are smoking. Some of them are coughing. And some of them are whistling stuff. And actually, we're going to have these sounds actually be performed, so to speak. Sorry, guys, I'm so bad at keeping on track. I mean, I wanted to show you weapon sound effects. I hope this is okay. But I also want to show you a little clip of how it will look when these soldiers or enemies or people who are just living their lives, when they're talking, how this will look actually. Let's use this close-up, for instance.
Берегись! Поживи давай быстрее! Вам нужно убедиться, что все пушки заряжены и готовы. Возьмите несколько ящиков с боеприпасами и подготовьте все. Также нам понадобятся мины и пару винтовок дополнительно. Идите.
So that's an example of how they will look when they're talking. This one is very important too to see. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Let me catch up on a couple of comments. When you hear GoldenEye, will you have something like the score you made for GoldenEye 25, where the theme is slow, calm, and if not chased by enemies, intense when chased? Yeah. So most of the levels are comprised of sometimes 50 to 20 elements that adapt to the gameplay. So that is really going to give you a lot of variety. I don't know if I want to show you a little bit in the music engine itself, because I really want you to experience that stuff. I don't know if I should show it to you. I would love to, but I want it because all the game soundtracks that I did before, from games that were never made, I had to release as compilations and as songs, and nobody could ever experience it the way it was programmed and how interactive it could be. So I wanted to experience that, but I'm not so sure. Maybe write in the comments what you would prefer. Great sound effect selections here. I think so too. Thanks a lot. It's been many years of collecting and searching sounds. Musical stems, yeah. Interactive music system. Dynamic music system. And I remember knowing the exact order of those grunts and yeah, right. No, guy who does a pretty good Russian accent. Me too, Alex. Me too. And I have it in the back of my head. Oh, we just need the Wilhelm scream. Yeah, maybe, yeah. Now, let's see. Let's get back to the weapon sounds. Yeah. So, a bit of the Soviet rifle sounds. Let's see. That's a classic one. And we have the AUG. famous, famous, famous. Let's not do all of them. Let's keep some as a surprise. Tokayard. And yeah, those are a couple of sounds. So that shows you a little bit of everything. Shotgun sounds. Well, shotgun will be implemented later, yes. Yeah, shotgun. Yeah, they have to be. Yeah, shotgun sounds have to be massive. Absolutely. You're right about that. So let's proceed a little bit with the presentation. We have the damage models, flyby, and now another thing I want you to hear is the foot sounds on different undergrounds. So this is mainly about listening. So let's have a listen. That's been set up too, you know, so different undergrounds produce different footstep sounds. And you can also hear the shells falling on the ground producing different sounds, depending if the underground is hard, solid, or, you know, soft, like snow, and so on. Another important thing you can see will have full body awareness, so with lags and everything. Because I hate it in games when it's supposed to be realistic and you look down and you see nothing, right? ASMR connections. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Okay. Now, the thing that I've talked about before is another important, you know, decoration pieces or things like that, or vehicles. And I want to show you a couple of things. Let's look at some of the vehicles in the game. So, Soviet truck. You can see with a nice little bit of wear and tear. And all sorts of different, like, period cars. And like I said, remove the logo from everything. And what I actually did here, go a little bit closer, I put a fake brand on it. So it's not a 4-letter car brand. It becomes Gazim. So this is what the car brand is now called. With, you know, these typical shapes. I just think it looks great. It just makes for nice decoration of levels. Here too. All the cars have various, you know, license plates. Made them all by hand. It was a huge piece of work too. Soviet taxi. Parked on, you know, side of the street. Trucks as well. Very black and so on. This is actually a KGB car. Again, Gazim. Some fake, you know, a fake model line. Am I able to read it again? Ozaveni special. Yeah, here looking at it from the front, again with the logos and everything gone. Buses. Yeah, let's look at the vehicles. Yannick walking around Switzerland with his shoes mic'd up. Yeah, pretty much so. Thanks, wasn't too sure about the right word for it. It was such a great thing back in GoldenEye 25 score, so it's amazing to hear that Mr. Yannick is planning for it in DC. Absolutely, and it will be even better executed than it would have been it was in GoldenEye 25. Yeah, Max Payne 3 did those too. I love how more games have been doing it. It definitely makes it more immersive. Yeah, and also when you walk and run, there's going to be, you know, you can hear because you have these, pardon me, you have all this gear on, so it rattles and you can hear the cloth moving a little bit, so that's the thing. And also, you know, you will hear very, very silently, but you can hear yourself breathe a little bit. And when you're running, you breathe faster and so on. It's just, just to build up immersion. My grandmother had a Gazim. Really? Oh, there we go. Oh, you mean this one? Yeah, I just love, that's something that modern cars just they don't have this charm and appeal that old cars have anymore. It's just, those rear lights and so on. It just looks, I just love it. And you will be able to drive many of these, not all of them, but many of these. And of course, we also have the special vehicles, like all sorts of military vehicles, but here I was focusing on the civilian things. Can you use the bumper? That's what it's for. Yeah, you have to do that one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course you can. What other era will you set a game in? I would say all around. Well, maybe some could also take place in the 60s, 70s, some maybe early 90s, and so on. Because I already noticed. I mean, 87 is pretty late already, but the thing is, the further back you go into history, the more restricting it becomes. I mean, it was already hard to sort of come up with cutscenes and to have a believable way how the agent is in touch with his HQ all the time, because certainly iPads and cell phones were not a big thing back then. I mean, you had the precursor of our mobile phones, but they were big, heavy, sometimes suitcases, and also gadgets and quite a bunch of weapons I wanted to have in the game I could not implement because they were not around in 87, like the Steyr TMP, like the P90, and a couple of other rifles that I wanted to have in there that I could not do because they were not around in 87, so that was a little bit of a bummer. So probably I wouldn't go back much further. I would all set them around the 80s. Yeah, cell phones, anything, everything. We can drive them. The black one looks cool. You mean this one or the KGB one? I would wager you mean this one. And these are just because, back in those days, so those were like, they were called Volga, and they were used by more officials and KGB personnel and so on. So those were the famous cars. The black ones, of course, were the KGB ones. And those were the people's cars, but many of like people who were working state security and so on, they had those. Yeah. So in some cases they're going to be after you. Let me just see. Does Agent Morris have a Walkman then? No, he doesn't. Well, maybe it's a gadget concealed as a Walkman. Maybe that. All the technology is just more fascinating to me. Yeah, absolutely, Cam, and I agree. And also visually is much more appealing. It's just, yeah. It's just, yeah, these things are just, yeah, I agree. So now let's see, and I would still like to show you some more things. Like I mentioned in the beginning, level 6 has been done now. Let's have a look at this level. So you will at a later point come into this city or town more called Zagrozhny. Let's have a look around a bit. Those are the streets of Zagrozhny. This is the the big building with the Soviet flags in front. It's like an administration building, government. Here we have a nice statue. Look at it a little bit. And very nice details. Some of those assets online, they're really fantastic. I think I really love this shot here because it shows, like there's vegetation on the buildings. The ground looks really nice. Really love that. Here's a lot of stuff here in this back alley. You can see like some sort of a postcard. You can see a little bit Zagrozhny. Uh, Here's a little bit of the landscape. Again, a bit of nature and landscape, you know, sculpting. Yeah. Walkman as a listening device. Oh yeah, Walkman that shoots tranquilizer darts. Hope there's a cue in this that introduces gadgets. Love these kinds of characters. There is going to be a Q-like character, and I think you know him, Kevin. I know you just completed level 6. How many levels do you expect to be in the end product? That's pretty much, that's set in stone. That's 15 levels. And wacky bonus levels similar Egyptian or Aztec. Oh no, man. Oh, the general concept. Well, like I say, I mean, you know, we have a lot of things to cover in a relatively tight budget. Just the basic things to make this game fun. So at this moment, I mean, some ideas they come as we go along, but at the moment, I'm not thinking too much on additional features and, you know, nice to have things. We really have to put a lot of time and effort in the basics first to cover these and do these nicely, you know? Considering you like The Sopranos, a mafia game from you in the future would be cool. Maybe Agent Morris infiltrates the mafia. Well, yeah, something like that could be done. And you could also set in the more modern age where, like, Dan Morris is more like the head of the FIB, and a young guy he sort of mentors a young guy, or things like that. They're all possible. You know, we can all be done. It's just hope this game will be fairly successful. Again, making back some money so it can be financed. I would absolutely love to do this. I would really love to make this a series again. Everything revolving around Agent Morris, you know, and so on. So let's hope and see. Now you've seen a couple of shots of level 6. I've also made a video walking through it a little bit, but it turned out to be much too long because you have a drive through the landscape and something on this drive happens that just makes it worth your while. But it was actually, it's an exposition level a little bit. And you would drive all these things. You could see it's all in development here with a massive bridge going over it, but it would have been much too long going through it like that. So you can see it's just massive. Going over this hill. And here's where a little farm town would have been. But I've actually then erased all this section because it would have been much too long. It would have been like a 15-minute drive and 15 minutes in real time, and that's just much too long. And especially in a segment where you do nothing but driving. So I decided to make the starting point of the game much earlier in the level. And then we have a little bit of cattle that's been moved to. That's a nice detail, nice touch. And here would have been. Then I have decided to, because actually you can see here from this farm town, you would have gone over the mountain, and then I decided to shorten the ride to go through the mountain through a tunnel, but the tunnel was much too long. It would have been like 5 minutes of just driving through a never repeating tunnel, which is just, you know, those are, you know, you can't do that. That's like a level design sins, right? And so actually the level starts after this mountain here. So somewhere around here it starts. And I'm not going to show you more, not to give away too much. Damn, the levels are huge. Yes, absolutely. I mean, it should feel like a world. Some are a little smaller, you know, like the next level, level 7 that I'm going to do is like going to be a little bit of neighbor terrain, and then you're going mainly going to focus on searching through a mansion. Yeah, removed. Exactly. And I think that concludes a little bit of what I want to show you. Now, yeah, please feel free to ask more questions if you have some more. And I'm still wondering if you would actually like to see and hear a little bit of the music system making its magic, working its magic, so to speak. So how it would work I can do it myself, by hand, just doing the transitions and so on. But how it is then, because it's already set up, all the music has been set up for many levels, and it just needs to be implemented in the game, and it will be very dynamic. Now, I'm just not sure if I want to show you this so you can listen and see how it works, or if that's going to ruin a little bit of the experience. So please feel free to write in the comments how you feel, if you would like to see it, or if you would rather like to experience it in the game. Oh, camera is gone. Well, at least the font and the logo is still sharp, because the cam certainly is not anymore. Oh, no, there you go. Okay, Alex is for a presentation of the music. Please, let's have some more opinions. Because like I say, I'm not doing this to unnecessarily tease you guys, but like I say, there's another little trauma that I have in the back of my head, because all the things that I've done, game music, and it all goes back to all the way to things like Stock Alert Mod, where I actually programmed music for about 3 to 4 different games, and it could never be experienced in the game itself. So yeah, I could show you level 1. I could show you a little bit of the level 1, how this works and how it sounds. Well, it certainly is going to spoil a little bit, because well, of course you're going to know how it sounds like, what it sounds like. Level 1 is going to sound like. I'm not too sure if I'm actually supposed to show that. And certainly let me just see. Let me just quickly go into the project first and foremost. Just have a quick look. Here we go. I've lost track a little bit. I just have to see how many levels I've already set up. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. And some other ones I've already set the music up, made the music already, but I've not programmed it yet. Let me just see. Yeah, okay. So I could show you. It's now up to you guys. Please, let's have a little voting. Just write if you would like to see it or not. I mean, you can also tune out if you don't want to see it. But let's just get a couple of opinions. Alex, you say you want to see it and you want to hear it. Let's wait for some more opinions. Please write a quick comment if you would like to see the music system in action. Not in the game yet, but actually how it will handle the music. Okay. Okay, so it appears most of you are for having a listen to it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then let me switch to the PC view back again real quick. And let's look at level 1. So we have level 1 selected. And actually, I think I have to wait a second, because this is quite a complex system. It follows on, so I have to get a script out. There you go. That's how complicated this is. I mean, it doesn't look like many elements, but it's actually a little bit more complicated than you would actually be to believe. Let me just see. I just have to take out, here we have the music script. So you can see here real quick, there's different phases and different, there's the whole order of how things should happen I have written on there. Because sometimes, it switches to silent and then back to something and so on. So let's dive right in. Of course, when you die, and that is switched instantly. And what I'm doing here by hand, actually, then the game engine is going to take care of. So there are different points in the level where it triggers a transition from one loop to another, or triggers a stinger, and so on. So let's get back into it. So this is when you're basically in the outside areas, and then when you get into more military things or a military area, it then transitions over to phase 2. So it becomes a little more tense. And then when you do various things, not going to say what, because that should be a little bit of a surprise. So we have these stingers for when you do certain things in the level. Just little hints. It sounds so good to die too, yeah. Let's listen to a couple of, well, not too many, just one or two. Maybe we'll hear the theme in one stinger or one. Let's have a listen. Let's proceed into another. And then it switches to this one here. From now on, I will not tell you what happens in the game when we switch these different phases, just for you, just to not to give away anything. And here you can have the stingers too. So here you could hear the main theme. Da-dee-da-da-da-da-da. And then actually goes back to phase 2. And keep in mind, this all happens very naturally and fluidly when you do things in a game. And actually, there's going to be part of the level that will trigger the next phase. Then something happens. And there's going to be a little bit of dialogue. And then as you get back out, then it goes back into this. And again, this all adapts to your playing. We get into this one here. Let me just see real quick. So this is a later part of the level. Then we'll go to this one. Actually, Kevin, you're referencing a good point. You're saying that sometimes it depends, the cutscenes depend on what you do in the level, and actually that's, in some cases, we're going to have that. In the sense of, they're not going to be in-game cutscenes. There's always going to be a cutscene at the beginning and at the end of a level. But depending on what you do and how you perform, in some cases, there will be different examples. There are going to be different things, cutscenes going to happen. Like you say, in one level, when you basically stealth your way through the level, you're going to get out pretty easily and without much attention. And in some cases, there's going to be a blasting thing going on. So, and now, of course, we also have alert and action. So let's just say we're in this phase 2, and all of a sudden we get sort of discovered, not engaged in battle fully yet. And if the shooting begins, alarm is raised. So actually what happened here is this end bit, because you heard it had like different stages, it will tie together with the end cutscene. So this will actually, the music that will complement the visuals that happen in the end cutscene. And by the way, thank you for all the nice comments on the music. I really appreciate that. Yeah, maybe I could show some more. Let me just see real quick. Maybe because not all the score is going to sound like the one you just heard. Just have a listen to this one as well. Yeah, let's not show too much. Level 3, let me just think what that was. Maybe I can show. I just want to show a little bit of the variety of the soundtrack. Level 3 is actually, yeah, that's the one. I think that has a little more ethnic sound to it. Let me just have a listen real quick. Oh yeah. Yeah, you heard the villain theme there. It's da, 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 da. And when a phase is actually branded as a stinger, it's just going to be because I once learned in a very important music lesson that in music or scores, the pauses are as important as the music itself. So to add dynamic dimensions to a score, it also needs to have its pauses and its quieter parts. So sometimes you will have a little bit of more, quieter parts, and then when you do something. Bye, Kevin. Thank you very much for attending. Yeah, we'll wrap this up pretty soon because this is over 2 hours now. Just going to see. Just wanted to show you a little bit of the sounds. Let's just see a level 4 real quick. Level 4, there's actually going to be an elevator. Where you have a bit of elevator music. And it just blends nicely with the loops. So when you get in and out of an elevator, And I was talking about this thing before that, like in a game score, you can have like two very different approaches. You can have like the loop that is going on all the time, or you can have stingers on top of the loops, and you can also have yeah, you can maybe see you can maybe hear just a lot of quietness, and the soundtrack mainly comprises of elements that underline your actions. This is a case in level 5. Let me just show you, because you can see here, it's mainly comprised of cues, right? Why your channel name is Dangerous Connections, because that's the name of the game. And so you are in this big installation, and basically when you do certain things or get in certain places, you will hear a little bit of music. And otherwise, it's more like calm and quiet. Then when you're somewhere doing something a spy does. Of course, sometimes you hear the main theme coming up. And I think my favorite bit in this one is, I think it's this one. Yeah. Ah, oh, Aspros, there was a sound that reminded me of an Orthodox cathedral, similar to an action movie with George Clooney. That's actually The Peacemaker. I love that movie. It's one of those absolutely underrated 90s action movies. I absolutely love that movie. And by the way, some of that movie has also been an inspiration for this game, because I really love it. I think it's completely underrated. Yeah. And with that shrieking sound, I think we'll conclude today's live stream. It's been over 2 hours. Guys, it's been great. You have been here. We'll do a last little round. If you have more questions left, or if you've got a question left, feel free to ask it. I'll be happy to answer it. Otherwise, this surely won't be the last live stream that I do, because I really enjoy doing these things along with you. And it's been cool. I mean, these 2 hours just went by so fast. I hope you enjoyed it too. Again, if you have a question, just feel free to ask it still, and otherwise we're gonna wrap it up. IOI should have hired you for the new Bond game. Well, not for lack of trying. I mean, I've written about 4 to 5 mails to different people over at IOI. Someone even gave me an email address of someone I think higher up working there. Never got an answer back, so that is that. That's another reason why I do my own thing now. Just because of the lack of possibilities, the lack of opportunities, and so on. So yeah, but no, it's cool. I really enjoy this project, and it's going to be great. And yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's really great to have you all along with it. The Peacemaker, 1997. Interesting things that I saw in this film, and it appears in the scene outside. Right, exactly. I think for some promotional shots, they also used a Desert Eagle, which, however, was never in the movie. I always wondered about that. I think there was a DVD cover with George Clooney's profile. I think Nicole Kidman was also there, and he clearly had a Desert Eagle pointed upwards, and there's no Desert Eagle in the movie whatsoever. So thank you for such a great live show, Yannick. It has been an absolute blast to be here again. Hopefully not too long until the next one. Thank you very much, Foster. It was great to have you around. It's always great to have you. Thank you for sticking around for such a long time and for having done so for many years. And it was just a great opportunity because, like I say, I just have a little bit of room to breathe now. Level 6 has been done, and in a couple of days I will start to work on level 7. So really make nice progress. So this is full steam ahead. Do you play Red Dead Redemption? No, I've seen some footage of it, and I think it looks really great. But first of all, I said in the beginning of the stream that the whole Western setting is not really my cup of tea, and it's just too vast for my thing. You know, that's another thing about Dangerous Connections. I don't want to make it. I want to make it fairly long so you can have a nice experience playing it and not be done in like 3 hours. But that's also why I never played GTA 5 or Red Dead Redemption. But just because I just think those are the type of games that just you're never done with it. There's so much to do, and there's so many things you can do. It's endless. And still, at one point, I want to have this feeling of being done with a game. I can go and replay it, hopefully. Not like Modern Warfare. I mean, you play that one time and you're done with it because it's so linear. You don't have many. You have to play it over and over again. This almost the same way every time. But yeah, I want to have this sense of achievement that I beat the game. And with things like GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption, it just take too much time. Yes, on the promotional cover of the film, he's holding a Desert Eagle, but he does not use it at any time. Only the Beretta 92, exactly. I remember the scene where he's in Austria with, I think his name was Schumacher, where he attaches a silence and then puts it on his leg and threatens to shoot him. Yeah, it's a fantastic movie, and I have to say I'm not a fan of Hans Zimmer at all, especially his the way he does things and so on. I'm not a fan of him, but the soundtrack for The Peacemaker, that was a perfect fit. I really love the soundtrack of that movie, again with all these like Orthodox choirs and chants and some nice action pieces, and so that was a really great thing. And I think Nicole Kidman was great in it. George Clooney did a great performance. It's a cool plot. The enemies are very mean and yeah, the pacing is great. It was a really great movie. Love it very much. So yeah, I think we'll call it a night now. Again, thank you very much for your attendance. Again, a little reminder, if you have not done it up until now, please wishlist Dangerous Connections on Steam. It's in the Steam shop where you can subscribe to it actually, and also pay a visit to dangerous-connections.com where you can see some pictures, you can get information, you can get an electronic press kit, spread the message, and yeah, I'm really hoping this game will be quite a success. But already this evening has been a great success. Thanks to all of you in attendance. Wish you a great night, and we'll see and hear us again soon, hopefully, and we'll talk again soon. And yeah, thank you very much. Have a great night.